So, a very good evening to all the faculty members, respected guest of honor, on all my fellow friends. Myself, Shreya. I have graduated from Miranda House College, University of Delhi, and I'll be taking a presentation on the topic Manipur, the history of politics. So, before delving deep into the topic, first of all, I'd like to elaborate my objectives for the presentation. The first objective is to know about the cultural heritage and the history of Manipur. So we all know about the current violence which is going on in the Manipur, but we hardly do know about the cultural heritage and the history of Manipur, which we need to understand because the present unrest is somewhere linked with the historical background. So it becomes very important to understand the history. Secondly, we need to understand the geographical diversity, the political diversity, the economic gap between the communities, the ethnic diversity is living there, because all these factors have greatly influenced the history and the politics of the Manipur, and which has culminated into the decades long conflict. The third is the role of the government and the civil society. So why we focus on the role of civil society? Because civil society are very important. If they're educated well, if they're aware about the issues which is going on, they can play a positive role in solving the problems, in making out peace there. So educating and making the citizens aware is very important for solving the issues. The second is the role of the government. So we also need to critically analyze the role of the government which they played to make peace out there. So we see the deadliest history of Manipur, which is ingrained in fear, in suspicion, in violence. So what has the government done to make the peace there? So this is also one of the objectives. The fourth is the impact of the long drawn dispute on different sections of society. So when we talk about different sections of society, we say that the people living in the Manipur as well as the people living outside the Manipur. So they might have roots in Manipur. So how these issues impact their psychological mindset, how they're able to how the agony in their mind feels. So all of them we will understand about these things in the further slides. And the fifth one is to learn the lesson. Why we're saying so? Because we need to understand the Northeast in complete detail. See, we see a certain kind of things in Manipur. The same political boundaries, geographical dispute, and the ethnic conflict is also seen in the other parts of Northeast as well, be it Assam, be it Nagaland, in Mizoram. So we need to take a lesson from the Manipur issues, and then only we can solve the problems in further states in future. Then I'd like to elaborate the significance of Manipur in detail. So why do we need to understand about the Northeast? Why the government needs to give a special importance to Northeast? This is very important to understand. The Northeast is basically the most culturally diverse areas of the world because it is the home of over 200 tribes. And tribes अलग अलग tribes के अपने अपने culture होते हैं, अपना religion होता है, अपना जीने का तरीका होता है, lifestyle होता है. तो इसलिए जो नॉर्थ ईस्ट है वो कल्चरली बहुत डाइवर्स हो जाता है एंड वी नीड टू गिव स्पेशल एम्फेसिस टू ऑल दीज culturally diverse regions and to people ताकि उनके बीच में conflict ना हो और सभी को equal representation मिले. The second is the popular festivals include the Hornbill Festival of Nagaland and the Pang Labzol of Sikkim. So these are the two major festivals celebrated there. But Northeast India is also dowry-free zone. We need to emphasize on this fact because we often say that Northeast is less civilized, they're less developed. But North India and the other parts of Indian subcontinent needs to learn a lesson from Northeast because in many parts of the Northeast we see that they practice matriarchy. They're also dowry-free zone. So the North India should learn from the Northeast. Then Northeast India is also a gateway to Southeast India because Northeast somewhere connects India with the other parts of Southeast Asia. And recently, the government is making special emphasis to strengthen Northeast by the policies of the Look East policy and the Act East policies. Because nowadays the Indo-Pacific region has become very important. So we need to give special emphasis to the Northeast. Then talking about Manipur specifically, Manipur का मतलब money plus pur होता है, which means a jeweled land. So it nestles into the lush green corner of the northeast. And Manipur is surrounded by blue hills. Manipur is surrounded by the blue hills with an oval-shaped valley. So the valley is known as Imphal Valley, and it is surrounded by the hills from all four sides. And it is rich in art and tradition. It has a pristine glory. And then talking about the ethnic diversity, so we have almost 35 recognized tribal communities, and the main communities are the Métis, the Kukis, and the Nagas. And there's a rich biodiversity also, great number of flora and fauna. Manipur is also the tradition of has also so Manipur's famous festival is the Umang Lai. So we can see that although majority of the Métis have converted into Hindus, but they still follow their original religion, and they still feel connected with nature. That is why they celebrate the Umang Life Festival there. Then we need to understand the handloom industry is the largest cottage industry in the state, and the special feature is that women are the only weavers. So handloom industry is somewhere empowering women because they're giving employment to women and they're making them independent as such. It is also birthplace of polo. So polo has originally originated from Manipur. So this should also be credited to Manipur. And then, so this is the map of Manipur, where we can see that the Valley is situated in the center, surrounded by the hills from all four sides. And the valley consists just 10% of the total population, and the hills consist of 90% of the total population. And the principal communities living in this region are the Métis living in the Imphal Valley, and the Nagas and the Kukis living in the hill areas. Then talking about the history of Manipur, so the Chronicles of Manipur talks about the kingdom of Manipur, which is dated back to 200 years old, and back then it was named as Kanglipak, and the dynasties, all the dynasties are mentioned in the Chronicles of Manipur, and it was ruled by Ningthauja dynasty, which is belonging to the Metis community, which means that the Metis were the original inhabitants of Manipur. And the kingdom of Manipur used to vary in size and shape. At times, it was the geographical extent of Manipur was uh, included the parts of Nagaland and Burma up to Mandalay. And in the 17th century, Manipur king Khedimba conquered Yunnan and brought back Chinese prisoners of war. And if you go to Mandalay, you'll see the ancient fort there, which is the exact replica of the Kangra fort situated in the Imphal Valley. So this is the influence of Manipur in the Burma. Then in the 17th century, okay, so Metis and the Nagas are the original inhabitants of Manipur, and the origin of Manipur and Manipur dance and Manipuri language is credited to the Metis community. 18th century saw the flowering of Vaishnav culture by the king Bhagya Chandra Rajshri, and from 1819 to 1829 we see the Burmese invasion. The Burmese invasion was possible. Like Burmese conquered Manipur, and it was possible because there was infighting in the state of Manipur, and also there was war for succession among the kings of Manipur, and that is why Burmese conquered the Manipur, taking advantage of that. And in the 19th century, when in 1829 the Burmese left the kingdom of Manipur, right? So there was threat that Burmese could attack again. So the king of Manipur took help of the East India Company in the 19th century, and then we see that the presence or influence of East India Company in the affairs of the Manipur. So the Britishers started Christianizing the areas of the Manipur and the northeast, and that is how we see the majority parts of the Nagaland and the Mizoram. They converted into Christianity. So they used to re-engineer the demography of the northeast. How they used to take the advantage of the starvation-like condition, and then they'll bring relief feature and force people to get converted into Christianity. So this we can say that was the influence of the colonialism at that period of time. And the 20th century saw the first influx of Burmese tribals belonging to Dzogchen tribe in South Manipur. So while we're talking about that, the Britishers were trying to convert the people into Christian, but the Métis tribe they opposed it. Métis tribe ने बहुत oppose किया conversion के लिए, और इसलिए ब्रिटिशर्स ने उनको पनिश करने के लिए बोला कि आप सिर्फ इम्फाल वैली के अंदर ही रह सकते हैं, आप हिल्स में नहीं जा सकते हैं. तो ये एक तरह से उनके लिए पनिशमेंट था, और इसीलिए हम देखते हैं कि एक डिवीजन क्रिएट हो जाता है कि जो मेटीज होते हैं वो सिर्फ हिल हिल मेटीज जो होते हैं सिर्फ वैली एरिया तक रहते हैं, और जो ट्राइबल्स होते हैं, जो नागा ट्राइबल्स होते हैं, वो हिल एरिया में रहते हैं, और एक डिस्टिंक्शन बन जाता है वैली पीपल और हिल पीपल का। और एक बफर स्टेट। सो 20th सेंचुरी में क्या होता है कि ब्रिटिशर्स ट्राइड टू, देयर वाज अ फर्स्ट इन्फ्लक्स ऑफ बर्मीज ट्राइबल्स. So this was the policy of Britishers to bring the Burmese tribals to make a buffer state so as to protect the Manipur from Burmese aggression. And those tribals belong from Zo-Chin community, जिनको आज हम कोकी ट्राइब बोलते हैं. तो यहाँ से हम देखते हैं कि कोकी ट्राइब पहले सबसे पहले आते हैं सदर्न मणिपुर में. और जब वो सदर्न मणिपुर में आते हैं, तो सिंस सदर्न मणिपुर यूज्ड टू बी द अबोड ऑफ द नागा पीपल और द ट्राइबल, जिनको हम नागाज बोलते हैं, तो जब बर्मीज ट्राइबल अपना आधिपत्य जमाने की कोशिश करते हैं सदर्न मणिपुर में, तो बहुत ब्लडशेड होता है. तो वो नागाज को वहां से हटाने की कोशिश करते हैं, क्लिंस करने की कोशिश करते हैं. तो यहीं से हम देख सकते हैं कि कैसे तीनों कम्युनिटीज के बीच में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट स्टार्ट हो जाता है. So this was the situation of Manipur before independence, when it used to be a union territory और Britishers उसको indirectly rule करते थे. But after the inclusion of Manipur in India, we see the prestige or the autonomy which they used to enjoy earlier, that was lost obviously, because the government of India tried to control the northeast region. So we see that Manipur was um, was a union territory from 1956 to 1972, and the Nehruvian government was completely confused about the approach that they're going to apply to the tribal. तो इसलिए हम देखते हैं कि जो पूरा 1950 से 90s तक का जो एरा होता है, नॉर्थ ईस्ट में बहुत सारा कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आता है. बहुत सारे स्टेट्स वो ऑटोनॉमी डिमांड करते हैं, स्टेटहुड की डिमांड करते हैं. ऐसा इसीलिए होता है क्योंकि नेहरूवियन गवर्नमेंट डिड नॉट हैव एनी major policy to tackle tribals. So the people of Manipur was worried because there was a migration into their land, and there was land boundary disputes. There were ethnic conflict. So this was the condition during the time of after independence, and it got its statehood only in the year 1972. From 1980 to 2004, Manipur was kept under Disturbed Area Act and AFSPA Act भी उस पे लगा हुआ था. और हम देखते हैं कि प्रेसिडेंट्स रूल भी मणिपुर में काफी ज्यादा लगता है. तो इससे ये समझ में आता है कि जो मणिपुर की हिस्ट्री है उसमें काफी ज्यादा ब्लडशेड रहा है. लोगों के ऊपर इसका साइकोलॉजिकल इम्पैक्ट बहुत ज्यादा रहा है, इसलिए क्योंकि उनका कहीं ना कहीं फ्रीडम कर्टेल हुआ है. उनके ऊपर बहुत प्रेशर था. वो फ्री नहीं थे कि कैसे जिएंगे और कैसे करेंगे. तो उनको हमेशा एक ऐसे स्टेट ऑफ वॉर की सिचुएशन में रहने के लिए मजबूर हो गए थे. तो इस तरीके से जो वहाँ की कम्युनिटीज है, उन्होंने एथनिक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की वजह से सफर किया है. टॉकिंग अबाउट द कुकी मीटी डिवाइड, सो व्हाई वी आर स्पेसिफिकली टॉकिंग अबाउट द कुकी मीटी डिवाइड, क्योंकि आज का जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, जो अभी ऑनगोइंग कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, वो कुकीज और मीटीज के बीच में है. इसलिए वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड अबाउट देम. So this ethnic conflict between the hill communities and the Métis, this continued to exist from the Kanglipak kingdom itself. But the real tensions were started in the year 1950s, when the Nagas started to demand their original homeland. They started to demand their homeland for them, and that was a Naga nation, a Nagaland. और इसके साथ साथ हम देखते हैं कि जो कुकीज हैं, they also launched a movement for Kuki land. So they wanted a state for themselves, that was Kuki land. Since Kuki land and the Nagaland, these both the states were to be carved out of the Manipur, so the Métis community they were not happy about this, and this is how we see कि although Kukis को बुलाया गया था Métis को सेव करने के लिए, लेकिन हम देखते हैं कि उन दोनों के बीच में ही कॉन्फ्लिक्ट स्टार्ट हो जाता है. So the demand, the Métis communities demand for ST status. तो अभी जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो रहा है उसमें मीटीज आर डिमांडिंग कि उनको एक एसटी स्टेटस मिलना चाहिए, जैसे कि कुकीज को मिला है. तो उसके पीछे की रीजनिंग क्या है, दिस वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. So they are demanding to be included in the ST status because they are saying कि since they are restricted in the Imphal Valley, और वो लैंड कहीं खरीद सकते हैं ट्राइबल एरियाज में, हिल एरियाज में, और कहीं ना कहीं जो कुकीज हैं, they can buy and sell land in the valley areas. So their homeland is shrinking, the Imphal Valley is shrinking, so they need a constitutional safeguard for themselves. So this is the first reasoning behind the demand for ST status. The second is during the period 2006 to 2012, ILP आता है, इंडर लाइन परमिट आता है मणिपुर में, जो बार करता है आउटसाइडर्स को आने के लिए. तो इससे भी कहीं ना कहीं एक रिस्ट्रिक्शन बन जाती है मेटी कम्युनिटी के लिए. एंड दे आर ऑल्सो सेइंग If you see the census of 2011, so the population of Metis has reduced greatly. So it was 59% in the year 1951, which has been reduced to 44% in 2011. So this is the demographic change that they've suffered. So that is why this is one of the reasons behind asking a constitutional safeguard for themselves. The third is, and then we'll see. So the Metis community's demand was it was somewhere patronized by the Manipur High Court when they give directive to the Tribal Affairs Ministry for inclusion of Metis community in the list. So although the Manipur High Court did not order कि उनको एक पर्टिकुलर डेट से वो इंक्लूड हो जाएंगे एसटी स्टेटस लिस्ट में, बट स्टिल हम देखते हैं कि गवर्नमेंट क्योंकि उस र्यूमर को फैलने से रोक नहीं पाती है, इसलिए जो है ट्राइबल started opposing. So why tribals are opposing? उनके पीछे भी कुछ रीजनिंग है. पहली रीजनिंग क्या है? According to them, Metis are economically and academically advanced than the tribals. Why we're saying so? Because Imphal Valley is an economic region. अगर आप मणिपुर को देखते हैं तो Imphal Valley बहुत strong है. सारा infrastructure, सारी economic activities, everything is situated in Imphal Valley. And वहाँ पे Metis community रहते हैं. Definitely they have more access to resources as compared to tribals. So tribals are saying if Metis are more advanced economically, socially, academically, then what's the point of giving them ST status? This is the first reason. The second, they're saying that if ST status is given to them, then definitely there will be loss of employment opportunity for the Kuki community. And since Manipuri language, the language of Metis community, is already included in the Schedule 6, so some of the Metis community are already getting benefits through SC or OBC status. So there's no need of giving them ST status as such. And they're also arguing about the disproportionate representation, that that although it's if you see the representation as such, then although the valley consists of 10% of the geographical area, and around 58% of the population lives there, they get 40 out of 60 MLAs, and the tribal people are getting just 20 MLAs. So this is also a demand, like they're saying that they're underrepresented, basically, the tribal people. So because of these reasons, we see the unrest in Manipur. So although the the tribal students body, they started the peaceful protest, but that became violent with time, and we saw counter violent clashes. Clashes broke out between the communities, and we see today that the Manipur is burning, and everybody is talking about Manipur. So the present situation in Manipur, it was very extreme, and we saw the deployment of the deployment of army and the central police forces, and we see even the police forces were divided into Kuki police and the Metis police. The district magistrates were divided into the district magistrates of Kuki community and the Metis community. So this was the far division between the communities in Manipur. So they were not the police of the Manipur, but they were the police of a particular community. So this is how disturbing the this current status quo of the Manipur. Then we talking about the impact of the ethnic unrest. So the impact of the ethnic unrest, we need to understand कि there is a distinction between the hill people and the valley people. And why I'm emphasizing about this? Because they're not able to understand themselves that they all belong to a particular state. But there is a distinction in this. This distinction is very problematic because now they're doing everything for their identities. There are two identities which has been created. There is no single identity right now, and that is why there is competition for the resources, there is discrimination, there is improper development. So all these things are going on, and we see that this distinction was created by the Britishers, and it is continued right now as well, and the government has not done much efforts to make them united. Then we also see that the decade-long unrest and violence has psychological impact on the minds of people because they were living in the fear. There was curfew. There was no normalcy. So the regular activities of people, the regular course of people were affected due to this. So definitely it has bad psychological impact on the minds of the people. They don't feel free there in their own state. And then unstable political environment halts economic growth. Definitely, the economy has slowed down of the Manipur region because there is no stable political government, which is a prerequisite condition for economic growth. And we can understand this by the two reports of the committee. The first one is the Planning Commission of Manipur, which ranks third. So Manipur is ranked third in below poverty line states. And according to the Niti Ayog's 2020 report of decent work and economic growth, Manipur stands at last position. So this is the impact of the unstable political government. And the unrest not only affected people living in the state, but also to people living in Manipur. For example, the students who have come for education in various states, people who have migrated for the employment opportunities. Now their families are living in conflict, their families are suffering, they're not able to meet their families. So definitely there is agony in the minds of the people. They're also disturbed. So we see that this conflict is not just restricted in the state of Manipur, but it has spread to the entire India. And the latest incident was very problematic and very disturbing when we see a woman of the Kuki community was stripped naked and paraded and sexually molested. So this has disturbed the whole country, and this is shameful for the entire India. So this was the impact of the conflict. And now we'll see the solutions, the long term solutions and the short term solutions that we can apply to make peace in Manipur. The first is the sixth schedule of Indian Constitution. So it describes the establishment of autonomous district councils, which has already been there in the Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram in Assam. So there are all these ADCs are already given to these particular states, and Kuki community are also demanding the same. They're also demanding ADCs for themselves so that they can rule, they can manage their local affairs, right? They can preserve their resources. So government can think about giving them ADCs so that they're satisfied somewhere. The Kuki community is satisfied somewhere, because we see that the Kukis are always seen as foreigners by the communities living in the Manipur. That is why they're agitating against this. So this can somehow satisfy them. The second one is the government should try to foster harmony between the people living in the hills and the valleys. And unless there is harmony, there is unity, there is fraternity between these two communities, we can't seek peace. And Manipur should be seen in terms of a central, integrated topographical entity rather than a hill or valley as such. Then the illegal migration from surrounding areas of Myanmar should be checked, because there is fear in the minds of people for the demographic change. So it should be checked. And the fourth one is, according to PLF 2021 to 2022, unemployment in Manipur is 9%, which is the double of national average. So definitely poverty and unemployment should be removed by the government. The government should take sufficient measures to give employment to people, to reduce poverty in the regions, because it is very evident that people who are unemployed, they take arms easily, they get radicalized easily. So it's better to give them employment so they'll not delve into these conflicts as such. But we also need to see that there should be sustainable development. Like development should not be done in a manner that the lands of the tribal people are encroached and that their culture is reduced. So this shouldn't be done. So there should be a sustainable development there. And there is also a drug issue or a drug angle case, and that needs to be solved. There's a golden triangle. The areas of the Myanmar, Laos, and Vietnam, they have been historically producing heroin and drugs, and there's a close link between these states and the state of Manipur. And we see a large number of poppy cultivation has been done in the hilly areas. The government needs to check this, but without blaming a particular community. Like for example, the cookies are blamed for producing heroin. So somewhere we are isolating cookies, and that is why they're revolting against it. So this needs to be checked. So this was all about my PPT. If you want to read further on Manipur, you can go through these websites, through these books. This is the first book by Dr. Khamdom Singh Lizam, The Problem and the Issues of Manipur and the Possible Solutions. There's also a book on ethnicity in Manipur by Dr. Lucy's Hall. And if you can't read book, then you can read these two journals. What is really behind the violence in Manipur in the frontline.thehindu.com. And there is also research work of Dr. Pushpita Das, the unfolding Kuki Meti conflict in Manipur. So this was all about Manipur, and with this, I would like to wrap up my PPT. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Shreya. It was really wonderful the way you have presented the whole situation in a very elaborated way, telling about each and every perspective, the current perspective, and then the history perspective, and what could be the possible solutions as well. So it was indeed a great talk. Now we have some questions from our audience, so let's take them. The first question is from Mr. Ajay, and he is asking that internet ban as a measure to deal with the riots has been a go to measure for state authorities. मतलब अगर कुछ भी होता है states में तो internet पहले ban किया जाता है. So how far do you think is this right to curb people's freedom of speech and expression?
Okay. So you cannot see this thing in isolation. I mean, there are two approaches of seeing this. So sometimes, like the government has definitely misused the internet thing. They ban internet whenever they see any conflict. But we also need to see that internet has become a measure where the people are spreading disinformation. Even if you see the recent this the molestation of the Kuki women. So this was डन बिकॉज एक ऐसा र्यूमर फैला हुआ था कि मेटी कम्युनिटी ने कुकी कुकी कम्युनिटी ने ऑलरेडी मेटी कम्युनिटी की विमेन के साथ सेक्सुअली मॉलेस्ट किया था और एक र्यूमर था तो ये र्यूमर फैल गया तो आई गेस कि द गवर्नमेंट शुड नॉट बैन इंटरनेट एज सच बट द जैसे ही अगर र्यूमर फैलता है तो गवर्नमेंट नीड्स टू चेक इट एंड उसको उसी उसी टाइम पे उसको बंद कर देना चाहिए या फिर जो भी मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन को करेक्ट करने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए अथॉरिटीज को. So this could be a solution. But I believe that banning internet whenever there is a conflict is not a solution because it is somewhere encroaching upon the rights of people. And even the international media has talked about कि इंडिया में इतना इंटरनेट बैन होता है और एक रिपोर्ट आई थी उसके अकॉर्डिंग इंडिया शायद नंबर मतलब टॉप पे है इस चीज में तो आई डोंट थिंक सो इट्स गुड फॉर इंडिया.
Yeah, people should have access to express themselves. I mean, like what is happening there and what is not. Okay.
Definitely.
So next question is from Miss Manvi, and she is asking, do you have any solution as a whole as how can we Indians learn to appreciate the cultural habits of the scheduled tribes of India? This surely can reduce their separatist tendency. But what can we learn from their cultural habits?
So there are so many things that we can learn from the cultural habits of tribal people. The first thing, they are very much connected with nature. वो nature को worship करते हैं, nature के पास रहते हैं. So this is the first thing. The second thing is जिस तरीके से we all are going for industrialization, urbanization, ठीक है, और हम बहुत डेवलपमेंट को हम जिस तरीके से देखते हैं वो बहुत ही नेगेटिव हो चुका है. हम कंज्यूमरिज्म की तरफ जा रहे हैं. तो वी कैन लर्न फ्रॉम द ट्राइबल्स कि कैसे वो बहुत कम रिसोर्सेज में खुद को खुश रख पाते हैं. तो दिस इज द सेकेंड थिंग. द थर्ड थिंग इज देयर कल्चर. वो अपने कल्चर और अपने ट्रेडिशन को बहुत रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं अनलाइक वी इंडियंस वी आर गोइंग फॉर वेस्टर्नाइजेशन. So, and there are a lot of things that we can learn from tribal people.
Okay, okay. So that was really nice. The answer was really nice up to some extent. Okay. One last question from our side, which is, what was your experience with this platform?
It was really interesting, although I was not well. And initially, when I was told about this GSTS event, honestly, I was not at all interested because I thought ki I was very confused about it. And when I was given this topic like Manipur, I thought, okay, Manipur का तो issue है, सभी जानते हैं कि violence हो रहा है, and everybody knows about it. So there is nothing special to tell about Manipur as such. But when I started researching about it, it was so much interesting. And मुझे बहुत मजा आया when I learned about the history of Manipur, कैसे जो ethnic जो communities है कैसे evolve हुई और ये जान के कि कैसे कनेक्ट करती हैं चीजें कैसे कनेक्ट करती हैं. There's a whole lot of lesson that we can learn from this particular incident of Manipur. So I wholeheartedly enjoyed the process of learning and presenting. And मुझे तो पीपीटी बनाने में भी बहुत प्रॉब्लम हुई थी इनिशियली, बट देन आई लर्न टू मेक इट. सो it helped me a lot, and I'm really grateful for GSTS, for I guess Shubham, who gave me this opportunity. I think he was the first to approach me for this. I was not aware about it. So thank you so much for giving this opportunity.
Okay, now proceeding further, it's time to invite a guest of honor again for her final remarks over today's topic, over today's talk, and over this particular initiative.
Thank you, Shailendra, again. We are just seeing what is happening right now, but what we fail to realize right now is that it has deep roots in its history. And she covered the entire geographical, historical aspect of the entire issue very beautifully. So I would like to congratulate her for that. It was a very informative session. Yeah. Congratulations.